Okay, great. Thank you very much, François. I was really looking forward to this conversation. And so already Anne-Sophie shared some of the stories, but I guess you are the founder. So your story is very, very important. And just as a warm-up questions, I wanted to ask you what you did before founding Plastic Flamingo.
Yes, I changed completely my life. I started by working for 10 years as a consultant for the French government in strategy and IT. So I was working with the French Ministry of Defense, for instance, in IT and strategy. And then after 10 years, I'll explain why later, but I decided to change completely my life and to move to the Plastic Flamingo.
Oh wow, the consulting for the French government to a plastic waste. Wow, what a transformation. It's, I'm now very, very curious. So you are based in the Philippines, correct?
Yes. Exactly.
And I'm also curious about how you ended up in the Philippines. Was it the previous job or it was something else?
No. Actually, the core mission of the Plastic Flamingo is to tackle marine plastic pollution with maximum social impact. So when we decided to launch the Plastic Flamingo, we just looked at the scientific literature, and we learned that most of the ocean plastic pollution comes from 6 countries in Southeast of Asia. The Philippines are, depending on the studies, number 3 or number 1. So we decided to go to the Philippines because it's an English-speaking country, so it helps for the business, but it's also at the very place where the problem is the most important. That's why we chose to go to the Philippines.
Wow, so when you are thinking about starting to tackle the plastic issues, you were somewhere else, and then you kind of looked at the data, and then you decided to be in the Philippines.
Exactly. I was a consultant in Paris, and in France, and I just thought, okay, I want to tackle plastic marine pollution. Where should I go? And
wow.
I could have gone to China, Indonesia, Philippines. I mean, Southeast of Asia for sure, because that's where it's the most important to tackle ocean pollution. And the Philippines because it's an English-speaking country. But also I should have mentioned that 15 years ago, I studied in the Philippines for 1 year in Ateneo de Manila University. So it was kind of a way to give back and to come back where I've been before.
I see.
15 years later.
I see. So what did you study in Manila?
Oh, business. I studied engineering and business. That's my study. And in the Philippines, it was cross-communication, international business, like an exchange year for students. For 1 year, you go there and you learn a new culture.
I see. And then, so how did you get interested in the plastic issues? So you were in Paris, and I don't know how much of the plastic waste you see on your day-to-day life.
Actually, it was a lot far before. 12 years ago, when I got married, I traveled from France to Cambodia by bicycle for 1 year with my wife through Europe, Middle East, and Asia. 1 year by bicycle. So I had time to see that in the environment, sadly, you can see a lot of plastic waste. And at this time, I thought to myself, one day I'll do something about it. But then, I found a proper job, I would say, as a consultant after my studies for 10 years. But 10 years later, it came back to my mind. I had to do something, and I decided to change my life.
Wow. Right. So you wanted to do something, and then you picked the Philippines. And so did you already have, when you were leaving Paris, did you already have a clear ideas about what you wanted to do to tackle the issues in the Philippines?
I had an idea, a clear one, but maybe not the good one at this stage. I wanted to do something about ocean pollution, okay, that's for sure. I knew that it would involve the big companies, the big corporates, and partnership with them. I knew that, but I was first focused on ocean pollution and beach plastic pollution, like collecting plastic on the beaches or in the ocean. That's what I thought at this time. And then, after a couple of months, we decided to switch a little bit the strategy and to collect plastic on land. So I had, to answer your question, I had an idea, a rough idea, but it evolved.
Right. So why did you change from collecting the plastic in the ocean to the land?
Because I understood, that's my point of view, that it's much more efficient to collect plastic on land before it has a chance to end up into the ocean, for two reasons. First, I tried to collect plastic on beaches and in the ocean. It's not easy. It's very scattered everywhere. You don't have big volumes at a certain place. You have a lot of plastic everywhere, but it's scattered. It's not easy to grab, etc. And it's very degraded. So then to recycle it, it's much more complicated. So I thought to myself, no, we have to collect plastic before it goes to the ocean, on land. That will be the most efficient way to do.
Right.
And
so
we pivoted.
The response to the issue versus preventing the issue, I guess.
Exactly.
If I put it simply. Right. And so initially you were focusing on the collection. I did saw on your website that in 2018 you had the crowdfunding, and it was still looking at the most exclusively at the collection of the plastic waste on land.
When we arrived in the Philippines with my wife and my 3 kids and only 5 suitcases, nothing, we started from scratch. What could we do? We could collect plastic. That's something everyone can do. You go everywhere, you pick up plastic waste, and that's something you can start with. So we started with collection of plastic waste. And we started very modestly with some collection points at some friends' places or at school of my kids, etc. And then we had more and more collection points. Now we have more than 170 in Manila only. These are schools, universities, condominiums, villages, stores, malls, hospitals, companies. Whoever's got plastic, we can come and pick it up globally. But we started very small by collection, because that's what you can do with your own hands. And then when we had more traction, more visibility, a good reputation on what we did, then we could raise money to build the recycling facility.
I see. So you're focusing on the collection, but you already had the intention to do something with the collected plastic, which is the recycling.
Exactly. When we started to collect plastic waste, we wanted to design a full circular economy from plastic waste to a new product for the benefits of the community. But for a recycling plant, you would need money, you need investment, you need time. So we started by collection and education, and then we moved to recycling. And I would say that collection is still part of the business model, an important one, but recycling is the core business.
So the recycling, I mean, we kind of also, as part of my organization, try to kind of think about what we can do in a small way around plastic. And recycling it means so many things, right? So what recycle into what? And so that, I guess, is one of the more challenging questions. And so what was your initial ideas about recycling into? And did it evolve as you learn new things?
It evolved a little bit. We are still evolving, and we will still evolve over time, I'm sure. But the first concept was, okay, we want to develop a product for the benefits of the community. First concept. Second one is the plastic that we collect is mixed plastic waste, probably not very clean. So we want to find a technology that is not very demanding in terms of quality of plastic waste. Third concept, we want to recycle as much plastic as we can. We want volume. So for that, construction materials fits the 3 points. It's heavy, so you recycle a lot of plastic. It's not very demanding in terms of quality of plastic, and it's for the benefits of the community. That's how I came to the idea to recycle plastic into eco-lumbers.
It kind of, you sound like it was a kind of very straightforward and simple step to reach this eco-lumber, but was it like that, or you had something else in mind as potential options?
I should have mentioned that before I left France for the Philippines, I visited a factory in Belgium who does exactly the same. They recycle plastic waste into eco-lumbers to manufacture street furniture, decking, etc. I visited this factory at this time because I thought they would be clients, but it planted a seed in my brain, and later on I was like, okay, I know that's what we have to do now. We have to do exactly what they do. And I tried, but it was not that easy to come to have this idea. It's a process also. But I simplify now for a better understanding. But we searched a little bit. But once we found this idea to recycle plastic into eco-lumbers, we had a second one, which is we will build shelters. We will manufacture houses, low-cost houses with those planks and posts. This is very ambitious. Huh? It's a very hard to reach target, but we succeeded. Last summer, we built our first shelter with eco-lumbers. I find this product very powerful in terms of symbol. It's you recycle plastic waste from the ocean into shelters that will benefit the communities that are affected by the change in the environment. So it's kind of closing the loop in a very virtuous way.
So I'm just trying to think from your perspective, and you have done the business, you are consulting French government, IT, and then you have this eco-lumber idea. I kind of, if I were you, I would feel, I don't know, I need somebody's help in understanding or creating the eco-lumber, because that's kind of, I don't know, the composition of the plastic, the heat, the machineries, all these things. I have no idea. So how did you go about that?
Yeah, you're perfectly right. I know nothing about it. I knew nothing about it at this time. So when you know nothing about something, you find experts. That's what you have to do. So you find money and you find experts. So money came a little bit later. Experts, how did we do? We settled partnership with universities in the Philippines. So that's what I did. I just contacted the universities, looked for talented students in master's degrees of chemistry, material engineering, mechanics, etc. And I told them, okay, we want to do something in your country, very, very important for you guys. You've got the knowledge, your skills, join us.
And how was the process of finding the right students?
I would say you have to be a little bit lucky. And you contact the university, you've got your network. We started very modest, okay? And maybe in the beginning, I also came from France with some students from France also. At this time, borders were open, so you could have also students from France. I started with interns, the Plastic Flamingo. And then, like after 2 years, we changed the interns by real employees.
I see. Okay. So it sounds like a big shift, right? I'm still kind of interested in your shift from the consulting to the plastic in the Philippines. And what did your wife or kids say about this big shift?
I started the project with my wife, the two of us. My wife and a cousin, by the way. And so she was part of the project for the first 6 months. She was responsible for communication. That's what she's very good at. And but after 6 months, she had to find a job so that we can have a little bit of money also, because it's very costly, kind of things. So, and also because it was a little bit too much pressure that we are always in the class, like both of us at the very far of the world, like very far from home, always talking about the platform. She needed a little bit of like, okay, I would like to do something else, so that at least you're in your stuff and I can have mine, and I can calm down a little bit, because it was very intense. And it seems easy now that it's done, but it's been super hard for everyone. But for my kids, the last one was 6 months old only. I have 3 kids. The eldest one was 8, and the last one 6 months. So they were very enthusiastic to discover a new country, but it was also a little bit stressing for them, because they understood that we had nothing. We started everything from scratch. They were very resilient.
Were you worried about this jump? I guess both culturally and economically, and maybe, I don't know, your social network, etc.
I myself was worried, of course, because it's a super big jump. I would not recommend anyone to do the same without doing it carefully. You change your country, you start a new business somewhere else, from scratch, an industry. It's not a service that you can start like that. It's an industry, so it was a little bit crazy in a way. But I'm also very cautious, and I planned everything, and I knew where the limits were. So we had enough money for 2 years. We had to find the solution in the first 2 years. Otherwise, we would have come back. But everything went well, luckily. And my father is an entrepreneur, so I would say that, and he ran many businesses, so I would say that my family was very supportive. But for the friends or the social network globally, even in the Philippines, the expats, when we arrived, they were very, very, they doubted a lot, like, what will you do, guys? I'm not sure you will. We were not supported by a lot of, we were supported, they were friendly, but you could see that they were very doubtful.
I see. And so who was your first financial supporter?
The Alliance to End Plastic Waste. After 2 years, we raised this grant. No, we first had a crowdfunding campaign, and we've been financed by about 200 people to raise about 100,000 USD. So this helped us to last for the first year and a half, first 2 years, for a little business. And then when we wanted to set up the recycling facility, we need more money. So the Alliance to End Plastic Waste offered us the grant, and we are still in business with them after 1 year and a half now.
And how did the APW support change your business?
So they supported in 2 main ways. The first way was they gave us a grant, and this grant, we are very thankful for it, because it's the whole factory now. And so it's super important. The second way is through mentorship, mentoring, operation advices. We have meetings every other Mondays, every 2 weeks on Mondays. We discuss with them about operations, and they check the progress of the project. They give feedbacks, advices, we discuss, they help us a little bit with the business model, etc., etc. Now we have a very, very strong relationship, and we trust each other, I hope, I see. And they helped us a lot.
I see. And so on your model, so you started by collecting, and then with the APW support, the recycling facility is up and running, and then eco lumber has been already produced, and then the shelters have been also produced. And so I mean, from outsider, it looks like a very complex business of putting different pieces of puzzle together, and which makes it very unique and then strong. But at the same time, as a CEO, you need to kind of worry about so many different things. And so how has it been to manage this, I guess, end-to-end business?
That's very right what you say. It's like a puzzle. You have a lot of pieces and you have to stick them together. Two last pieces that I didn't mention, which are very important now. In our business model, we produce eco lumbers and we sell them as furniture or any products, any end products. We also have services for big companies that we call EPR services, Extended Producer Responsibility Services, with big corporates, FMCGs, food and beverage companies, etc. They finance us to collect and recycle plastic waste in exchange for certificates of plastic offsetting. So the turnover of this type of service so far in a year and a half is already about 500,000 USD. So it's not nothing. So it's very important pillar of the business model. How do we work with big companies to balance their plastic footprint through our activities? So that's an idea that came to my mind 2 years ago, a little bit early before the market, but now it's in everyone's head. So we are really at the very good place, at the very good moment now for this kind of business. The last part of the business model, as you said, it's very complex, our business model so far. You collect plastic, you extrude it into eco lumbers, you manufacture end products, you find corporates to finance collection and recycling, etc. This is an holistic approach, which I like very much. But we also need a baseline for the business model, something that brings money on a day-to-day life, on a daily basis, something very strong and reliable. That's the pellets. So the granulates. So we decided to switch now to another activity, which is to produce granulates, pellets, with recycled plastic. There is a huge demand for good quality pellets of plastics, and we have all the network for this kind of business. We now have the machines. They are coming from abroad right now, and starting in January, we'll produce pellets. This will be the base of the business model, something that we will sell on a monthly basis, very regularly, tons of pellets, so that we can have a base to develop all the rest, which is more the holistic approach. But we started by the most complicated, I would say. Now we return back to the basics, which is pellets, as everyone else would do. But we have already a differentiation on the market, so thanks to the holistic approach, we'll make the difference, I hope.
I hope so too. So I guess this kind of tweaking and testing different approaches and then end up with I guess a better formula eventually. That's the usual and necessary process for any entrepreneurs. But how has that kind of discussion been within the team, right? So people kind of worried about the shift, or was there any kind of challenges made from the team, or they were kind of like, oh, that makes sense, let's do that?
That's a very good question. Yes, when you start up a business with an entrepreneurship mindset, you have to test the market. That's just what will make the difference. You fit or not with the market. So it's a matter of death or life for the company. So, but for the teams, it could be tiring because you go to a certain direction, you put all your energy, for the leader also, you put all your energy in a direction, and then you've got feedbacks from the market, oh no, this will not work that way, I have to twist a little bit, etc. So for the teams, it's tiring. Though, it's also a matter of communication between us. How can we decide together what is the right direction? Sometimes you need also a leader, someone to decide. That's my job, to design the strategy. That's my job. Though, we do it amongst the directors. They give me their feedback. They tell me, okay, no, François, that's one more of your crazy ideas. Let's stick to what is important. Or they tell me, no, you're right. There we are not good enough. We should move there. So it's a process. It's not easy at all. But I don't see how we can do differently.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that's the only way. So what's the most satisfying thing about running Plus?
So we have up and downs. On a daily basis, I can have a lot of joy and a lot of sorrow. It can be very, very emotional. But when I'm sad or discouraged or tired, what makes me the most proud is the social impact of the Plus. I will share with you something very, very basic. I was in Paris a couple of days ago for a contest for many weeks, etc. We lost. So I was sad and desperate a little bit, and when I came back to my home by train, I watched a video from my team in the warehouse. They had a Christmas party, and the workers, they were dancing, and they were very full of joy, and they were singing karaoke, something like that, and it makes me always cry. I mean, the social impact is what I'm the most proud of. After all, we gave job to 30 people. I mean, that's what is the most important to me.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Yeah, I also, I hear you. I think the team in the organization who are happy and excited, that's really gave the leaders a lot of energy as well. Yeah. What keeps you awake at night?
Money. Money, cash flow. Now we are not. We are at this stage in the company where it's not the beginning. The startup. When you start everything, we don't know. We know exactly where to go, but we spend also a lot of money. We have charges on a monthly basis, etc. So cash flow is always an issue for entrepreneurs, and we are still always a little bit like, okay, it's good, it works, but it's very, very tiny. So sometimes when I look at the bank account, I'm like, okay, it will work. Then we are nearly zero, and then we have another contract, and it's okay for a couple of months more, etc. So that's cash flow. Money and cash flow is my most important worry.
Yeah, I fully understand. The initial few years of my organization, we had 3 times we were about to run out of money next month, 3 times, and something always happened that somebody saved us, and but it was so stressful. So I can imagine that this kind of thing keeps you awake at night. If I kind of try to simplify, sorry, this is a very oversimplified question, but if you have like, let's say 10 as a total, how much of the 10 is a pleasure of running PLAF versus stress?
It's 50-50 now. It's 5-5. I'm very proud. I'm very happy. I found my place. And I think I'm at the right place. That's what I have to do now. That's what I'm good at. But it's still very stressful. So 5-5. But I'm sure next year it will be 6 for fun and 4 for stress, and then next year 7 and 3. But at this moment it's still 5-5.
Okay, great. So switching the gear a little bit about the bigger companies and then also the businesses in Japan. I think there are a lot of companies, I guess, are interested, and you are already providing services to the large companies. I often feel that, especially in the emerging market, the big companies are finding it difficult to really understand the challenges on the ground and then kind of provide the appropriate service or product. How do you, what's your advice been? I guess, you know, you've been interacting with a lot of companies. What kind of advice are you giving to large companies?
Usually the big waste management companies, for instance, the European one or American one or Asian one, whatever, they are not yet in the Philippines, for instance. Why? Because they are too big. And they don't know how to enter this market, which is very hard to enter. And quite complicated because you have to coordinate with public organization, etc. It's a quite hard and informal sector also. So they don't know how to manage it. They are too big. So they need small companies like ours to test the market, try stuff, and then when it's strong enough, big enough, then I think they are very. That's where they should invest and come and make it grow up, scale up. So I would suggest to big companies willing to have an impact to finance mature startups, matured one, and not the very beginning, like after a couple of years, 3 years, to finance them to scale up. That's for sure. And then also they could develop intrapreneurship, like they could have their own projects. They should do actually. What we did to reach the point where the PLAF is, we did it with not a lot of money. Not a lot of money.
Yeah.
Any big company could have this money.
Yeah. Right. Great. I think it's. I agree. A lot of big companies are often too big, and. So working with nimble entrepreneurs like you would be really useful for them. That's a great advice. So for the Japanese companies, so there are already a number of companies joining the APW and then joining force to solve these plastic waste issues. But I think I understand that the APW want to have more and more. What kind of message you can have for the Japanese companies kind of considering joining APW or considering kind of becoming a more active part in solving these big challenges?
Yes. The ocean plastic pollution will be solved only by companies, by big companies. That's what I understood so far. They have the power to change the world, so they should. The central concept is EPR, Extended Producer Responsibility. If you put plastic in the market through your packaging or through your products, whatever, you have the responsibility to make sure that the plastic that you put on the market will find the proper end of life through recycling, hopefully. You're responsible for it. That's the concept of EPR. For that, you have three ways to work. The first one is eco-conception. You should reduce your packaging, you think of new material, of a better recyclability of your plastic packaging, etc. Eco-conception is the first one. We are not at the PLAF into eco-conception, but some other companies are doing that very well. So they can think about this one, how to reduce the plastic directly at the source. Then the second one is use recycled plastic in your packaging. That's very important because when you use recycled plastic, you save also a lot of carbon emission versus virgin plastic, by the way. It's not only a question of plastic, it's also a question of carbon. So buying pellets of good qualities of recycled plastic that are done in a good way with social impact, with ethics, etc. That's how companies can do the most of their. That's the best way. They buy pellets and they put it in their packaging. Recycled pellets versus virgin plastic. It's a little bit more expensive, but they have the responsibility to do it. The third way, when you can't just use recycled material in your packaging or your products, you finance the collection and recycling of the amount of plastic waste that you put in the market. It's a question of offsetting, compensation of plastic waste. It's the third pillar. So let's say you're a big company, you put a lot of plastic waste in the market through your packaging. You can't change your packaging in the short term. You can't use recycled material in it. You still can pay someone like me to collect plastic waste and recycle it in some high impactful products so that at least you balance your footprint. So eco-conception, pellets and recycled material, compensation. That's what they should do.
Oh, great. That's a very concrete and straightforward answer. Thank you. The third point just reminded me of the carbon credit scheme, right? So those who produce more need to pay for those who don't produce. That's I guess if that there's a better market mechanism to facilitate that might be an interesting initiative. Maybe this is what AEPW.
No. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. The EPR schemes, which is plastic credits in a way. We at the PLAF kind of invented it also among other companies in the world, a couple of them, a couple of years ago. But now we need big organization to regulate it and to put it in place. It's in the law in some countries. In France and Europe, it's in the law. Companies, they have to do that by law. Soon it will be the case in the Philippines, but not yet. So most of the companies now, they are following this path. But we need regulators. We need big organizations because otherwise anyone will jump in this market and will do heavy.
I agree. Yeah, so I guess the carbon became just too regulated and just too complicated to enter. But if something that is good enough, or it allows for a good and transparent competition, that would be an interesting system to consider. Wow, that's great. Thank you. Francois, I have asked you a lot of questions, but is there anything that I haven't asked but you wanted to share with audience?
No, thank you. That was very, very clear already. I hope it was clear on my end also.
Very clear, yes.
Okay, so thank you. No, I think we covered pretty much everything. Thank you very much for inviting me to speak also.